Well, Atletico Madrid remain in talks for Chelsea midfielder Conor Gallagher, but there is a big gap in valuation. Atletico do not yet have an agreement with the player, and they are aware of interest from Tottenham. Chelsea are expecting Tottenham to make a bid. Kwaku, he might not have sort of the stats that everyone looks at, you know, for a player that's played in his position, Conor Gallagher. But there was absolutely no doubt. Take Cole Palmer out of the equation last season, and he was one of Chelsea's best players. So why are the club wanting to sell him?
It doesn't make too much sense. I suppose you look at the books, you look at the fact that Chelsea have to balance the books. He's an academy product, and Chelsea can garner a hefty fee for him in terms of a transfer fee. But for me, he's such an important player, not just on the pitch, but what he brings off the pitch as well. Quickly develops into a leader at Stamford Bridge. Is a player that is strong in the dressing room and gives his all for Chelsea. And like you mentioned, it's not the top line stats that stand out of Conor Gallagher. It's the underlying stats. It's the pressing, it's the running, it's the tackling. And he's a player that started the game for England at the Euros. Like, it beggars belief that a player that is an England international is surplus to requirements at a club like Chelsea that are not even challenging for Champions League football, really. And so, for Chelsea fans, it would be a huge disappointment, especially over the last couple of years, seeing big academy products leave the club. Conor Gallagher is a man that, I've mentioned it before, wore the captain's armband more than anybody else for Chelsea last season. And so he will be a big miss. And he was a huge plus for Mauricio Pochettino last year, especially when Chelsea turned things around towards the back end of the season. And so it remains to be seen how Chelsea will do without Conor Gallagher. But again, I've said it before, he's going to be a big miss for the club.
Yeah, he's of course entering into the last year of his contract, so it's either Chelsea sell him this summer, let his contract run down until next summer, and then he goes for free. So it's a really interesting time for Conor Gallagher. He's always made clear that he wants to stay at Chelsea. This is his club. He's been at the club since he was a boy, and he wants to stay, but we'll await to see what happens with that one. Dan, selling young academy products that have been at Chelsea since they were kids has been an ongoing theme under this ownership, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's been a theme for Chelsea for a number of years, even before Todd Bowley's team came in. It's something that, as fans, really you want to see homegrown academy players make it into your first team. And the way that PSR is at the moment, that isn't what's happening for Premier League clubs, and you've seen many Premier League clubs have to offload homegrown players. We start here, Mason Mount, that will have been one that really smarted. There's two Chelsea fans sat at that table there who were very upset when Mason Mount made the move to Manchester United. And it's kind of a similar vibe now with Conor Gallagher. Conor Gallagher almost stepped into Mason Mount's shoes of being that homegrown product in the midfield, someone that the Chelsea fans could really relate to and get on board with. Similar vibe, Mount leaving to Manchester United and Gallagher potentially leaving as well. You've got two players who've left there, Livramento and Lewis Hall, who've gone to Newcastle. Arguably, Newcastle and Chelsea are kind of competing in the same area of the Premier League at the moment. So to lose two players of them who could potentially go on and have big careers at Newcastle, again, I just don't think it's something that fans of Chelsea would really be keen on and want to see. Loftus-Cheek, a different proposition. He'd been at Chelsea a while, had various loans, a very good footballer, but probably never cemented himself in Chelsea's midfield. He's gone off to Milan and made a success of himself. Hudson-Odoi was miles off the first team as well. Reinvented himself kind of at Nottingham Forest last season, and I'm sure he'll go on and have a very good season again this time round. Ian Matson, the most recent academy graduate that's gone and joined Aston Villa. Again, in an ideal world, I don't really feel like Chelsea and Chelsea fans would want to lose this player. He's had a successful loan at Dortmund, named left-back of the tournament in the Champions League. But for PSR reasons, Chelsea have felt obliged to sell him, and Villa have kind of took that on and sold a player the other way, and it appeases PSR. But it's just not right. And there's, arguably, some of these players would make Chelsea a better team now. Previous centre-backs that have left, the likes of Tomori and Gahey, I think they probably get in Chelsea's team if they're there now. So really, Chelsea will say that they're kind of forced to do it, but because of PSR, but because it's been such an extreme transfer policy under Todd Bowley, Chelsea fans lose out on watching what is one of the most pure things that you can watch as a Premier League fan or as a football fan. Young academy players making it to your first team, and I'm sure Conor Gallagher, unfortunately, I don't think he'll be the last.
Kwaku, how do you feel? When you look at some of those names and some of the names that Dan mentioned as well, you think of Tomori, Gahey, Tammy Abraham, yes. All of those players, there's going to be really no academy products left at Chelsea. If you think of Trevor Chalobah wasn't taken on their pre-season tour of America, Armando Broja we've spoken about, that he's been linked away. There's going to be none left, is there?
The only person left is Reece James, who's perpetually injured. Obviously, he's Chelsea's captain right now, and obviously we hope for this season that he stays fit. But it's a shame if you're a Chelsea fan to see all these academy products leave and go and achieve huge things. You think of Ian Maatsen, a player that you're going to see a lot this season, who played in the Champions League, was in the Champions League team this season, was an integral player for Borussia Dortmund, and he was great in the Championship for Burnley as well. And so the fact that these academy products aren't being utilised and being used as make weights to balance the books is a shame, but we're seeing it across loads of top clubs this season. We're seeing it across Manchester United, at Arsenal. It's just how football's going with the current financial regulations. But for Chelsea, I seem to do it more than any other team, and it's a shame because these players, like Dan mentioned, are good enough to start for Chelsea. Mark Guehi started for England. Guy Tomori's a great player. These players would make Chelsea better, but for some reason, the ownership group decided to let them go. So we just have to see how it plays out.